It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life. From the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators. The famous and not so famous. The controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here is Douglas Coleman.
Hey there, hi there, ho there. You're as welcome as can be. Oh no, that's a different show. Hello, it's Douglas Coleman. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. How are you? How are you? Thank you for joining us. We got a full show today, 2 interviews plus music, so not a lot of time for the intro. My first guest is Cory Groshek, and Cory is an author, blogger, investor, musician, entertainer, consumer rights advocate, metaphysician, founder, CEO of Manifestation Machine. He would tell us all about all of those endeavors that he is into. He's recently written a book called Breaking Away, Book 1 of the Rabylon Series, and it's a children's book, which the characters are rabbits. Okay, please welcome my guest, Cory Groshek. Hi, Cory. How are you?
Hi, Douglas. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. You wear a lot of hats. I was reading through your bio, and you're all kinds of different people. So what I thought I would do is just kind of take them one at a time, and you can explain what it is that you do with those particular hats, all right?
Sure.
Okay, so first one, it says author blogger. So tell us a little about that.
Well, with regards to the author part, I actually just published my first children's book. It's a middle grade fiction book, so it's for around ages 9 through 12, although a lot of adults have seemed to like it as well. It's called Breaking Away, Book 1 of the Rabylon Series, like the word Babylon, but with an R instead of a B, because the characters, most of them anyway, in my book are rabbits. I was a big fan of The Jungle Book when I was a kid, stories like Charlotte's Web and the like, and especially, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie about little dinosaurs. It's called The Land Before Time. I think it was from the late 80s. I was born in 83, by the way. So I loved stories like that where they used animals to teach children really valuable life lessons. So that's what I was attempting to do with this first book of mine, which, by the way, is available through Amazon as a Kindle ebook, as a paperback, and through Audible as an audiobook. As for the blogging part, I also run a personal growth and development blog called manifestationmachine.com, where I've dedicated my life basically to teaching people the same process that I'm attempting to teach children through my children's book for achieving health, wealth, success, abundance, prosperity, whatever you'd like to call it, in their lives.
Okay, let me go back to your book a second, Breaking Away. You said it's the characters are primarily rabbits?
Correct.
Okay, so what exactly do the rabbits do in the book?
The book centers around 2 protagonists, female and a male rabbit named Rhea and Remy. The 2 rabbits grow up in a quite North Korea-like village known as Rabylon, where rather than having a dictator like Kim Jong-un, they have a big fat mayor named Monty Cottonsworth III. He's the third in a line of dictatorial rabbits who basically have every other rabbit as their slaves. And the children, they're like me. And by the way, I have a twin brother. The rabbits that are the protagonists in my story are loosely based on me and my twin brother. As we were growing up, we were very much into arts, things like poetry, music. We even did some drawing of comic books. So these rabbits are themselves into painting and poetry. And what they're really doing is dreaming of a better life. They want to break away from Rabylon, but like a lot of people, especially in America these days, and really in all Western countries, they don't really know if it's possible for them. I see this a lot with millennials these days. A lot of them saw their mother and father lose all their money back in 2009. And a lot of them don't know if a better life is possible or if it even exists. And so my book really centers around these bunnies finding, or at least believing, that a better life does exist and putting everything on the line to try to make it happen for themselves, which involves leaving their village and pursuing what they think is this better life on the other side of a big green hill, which on the other side of it, according to a story told to them by their grandfather, lies a mythical carrot paradise where there's more carrots than the eyes could see, and really just freedom, abundance, prosperity everywhere.
Is there a political message to this?
I think a lot of people would read my book and they would think that it's an allegory. I really leave it up to people who read it to determine that for themselves if they think it's supposed to be literal or allegorical. But I do have some strong beliefs about poverty in the world, and I would say that those beliefs, and some people might say they're political, do come across through the book. At the end of the day, what I'm trying to teach children is, for example, you could be born in a family that's impoverished, isn't really doing well financially, and maybe will never do well financially if you don't make some drastic changes in your life. But I'm teaching those children through this book that you don't have to live the rest of your life that way, that you can change it. And what my book, I believe, really instills in kids is a couple principles. Number one, dreaming big. Number two, taking risks, which is something all successful people do. Number three, trusting your gut. That is listening to your gut when it says do this or don't do that, because I've had a lot of cases in my life where I didn't listen to my gut, and it had me end up in a lot of situations I, in hindsight, like to have not dealt with. And number four, choosing faith over fear, which for me isn't about a religious faith, but choosing faith over fear with regards to going after what you don't want in life versus running away from what you don't want. And I think if those kids can get those four principles through this book, I think they're going to be off to a great start with regards to achieving success in their own lives.
Well, I think it's a good message. I think a lot of people go through their life afraid, like you said, to take risks. You know, people play it safe, and at the end of the road, they look back and they say, you know, damn, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. And they don't come out with a fulfilled life at the end of it. So I think it's a good message. Yeah. And you got to start it young to.
Right. That's really why I wrote a children's book, Douglas. I could have written any book. In fact, I'm actually working on some personal growth and development books for adults right now. One which is actually patterned after my own 4-step process that I've used to achieve success and actually get to the point where I could write this book myself. But I chose to write a children's book because it's like you said, you need to reach these kids young. And based on some scientific and psychological studies and papers I've read or seen lately, it's a lot easier to get through to a child than it is to get through to an adult who maybe is too far gone, too jaded to even listen to what somebody like me has to say, let alone read a book about it. So that's why I went for the children.
How's the book doing?
Well, I will tell you right out the gate, when I released it in December of last year, I earned over $700 from sales. And from what I've read online, a lot of authors don't even make $500. So it's actually doing really well. In addition, I've actually been taking paperback copies of the book and distributing them all over the state of Wisconsin, my home state, through little free libraries. I don't know if you know what those are, Douglas.
No.
But if your listeners want to check out littlefreelibrary.org, it's a charity organization where, and this started in Wisconsin, by the way, a child actually started this, where people basically build these little schoolhouse looking boxes on poles. A lot of them are really very nice looking, where there would be books put inside of them. So it's like a little free library in your own neighborhood. I've got several within walking distance of my own house. But ever since I put my book out, I've been taking my books and just throwing them in libraries left and right, trying to get them to as many people as would like to read them as possible. And I have to tell you, I've gone back to a couple of the places, I've left them, and people are not bringing them back, which to me is a good thing.
Okay, let's get to the second one, or the third one actually, is investor. Now, what kind of stuff are you investing in?
Well, primarily it's the future of transportation or electronics is where I think it's going. It's actually primarily in lithium, as in one of the main materials that we need to make lithium ion batteries, not just for things like our iPhones and our laptop computers, but also for electric vehicles, which are, I think, primed to really take over the world in the next 10 to 15 years. So I'm invested heavily, not just in lithium companies, or I should say companies that use lithium in their batteries like Panasonic, or companies that use those Panasonic batteries in their cars like Tesla Motors, for example, but actual lithium miners, as in the companies that pull the lithium out of the ground. So I'm heavily invested in that right now because I really want to see what a lot of people want to see, a world where we're not dependent on oil anymore. Not that I want us to have to keep pulling lithium out of the ground either. I'd like to see us find something better than that eventually, but I see lithium as a much better way to power things than fossil fuels, in my own personal opinion.
Oh, well, it's certainly cleaner, and I don't know the extraction process. Is lithium cheaper to harvest than oil?
Actually, I don't have numbers on that, but it's definitely cleaner, and I think over the long term, it's definitely going to be less expensive. One of the big reasons I'm invested in the companies, I won't name them because I don't want to get in trouble with the SEC and sound like I'm advising someone to buy this company or that.
Right.
Although if somebody looks me up on StockTwits, it's like Twitter for investors under my name, Cory Groshek, I'm sure they'll figure out which stocks I like really quickly. I do believe lithium is going to be a lot less expensive to get out of the ground. And I know that a couple companies in particular, SQM is one which is actually based out of Chile. They're actually looking into technology to make it less expensive, to get it not only out of hard rock, but also out of things like clay, which there's apparently a lot of in Nevada that isn't being utilized yet.
Well, I think most of Nevada isn't being utilized yet. You can drive for hundreds of miles and there's nothing out there. Just dirt.
That's right. But
yeah.
Right. And there are a couple companies that own a lot of hectares of land in Nevada, though, that are actively looking at getting the lithium out of the clay that's in the ground right now. So if I would give any advice, not company specific advice, I would tell anyone interested in getting into lithium investing to look into the companies that are actually actively seeking to get it out of the clay in Nevada, because I think those companies are really onto something. It's just speculative. Don't put your kid's college fund in it necessarily, but if you've got a little money to play with and you feel like speculating, maybe look into that and see where it leads you.
So lithium they can make batteries out of, and they can also make drugs with, yeah?
Yes, lithium's actually, I believe it's a mood enhancer. I'm not a big fan of the pharmaceutical industry as a whole, but lithium's natural, comes out of the ground, and it does actually improve one's mood from what I've read about it.
Yeah, in fact, they used to prescribe it years ago. I don't know if they do anymore, but they used to prescribe it for people who were coming off of alcohol.
Yes.
For alcoholics, they would give them that instead to try to wean them off. But I don't know if they still do that. That's back in the 70s. I remember that from my father.
Well,
he used to always have a stash.
I would eat some lithium before I'd ever get back into drinking. For the record, I actually used to be an alcoholic, Douglas, and I actually beat alcoholism back in and around the year 2008.
Oh, good for you.
Cleaned my life up a lot, and I'm happy to say that I'm 100% clean and sober these days, which also, in addition to my success-oriented process I'll probably be talking to you about in a minute, cleaning my life up, getting that alcohol out of my life is probably one of the things that had the greatest positive impacts on my ability to succeed.
Yeah, people that have stopped drinking didn't realize how bad it was while they were drinking until after they finished drinking.
Right.
And then
they find out they're way more clear-headed.
Yeah, and then you look back at it and go, what the hell was I doing,
Right.
Oh, it was a real mess.
Yes, it's kind of like spending 20 years in that corporate environment. I did a little research on you, and I know you spent a long time working for a company and not making music, and I found out that you're now doing a lot more of what you like to do, and I'm a big fan of that, by the way, Douglas.
Oh, well, thank you for looking me up. Yeah, it took me a long time to get back to it, but I'm happy I got back to it. Better late than never. All right, well, speaking of music, that's the next one on your bio here. It says musician entertainer. So tell us about your musical endeavors.
Sure. Well, I think I'll lump this in with another thing I told you I was into, which was making YouTube videos. Back when I was around 11 or 12, I fell in love with hip-hop music, believe it or not. And starting at the age of 17, I actually started producing, recording, and performing music. And over the course of my life, I've probably done maybe 50 to 60 live shows all over the state of Wisconsin. I've worked with countless other hip-hop artists and producers in the state of Wisconsin. And by my last count, I actually recorded over 80 songs between 2001 and 2012, which is actually the last time I actively recorded music, really, for the sake of selling it or releasing it to the public. By the way, I actually just painstakingly over the last month or so took every single song I've ever recorded and I uploaded it online on SoundClick, SoundCloud, YouTube, you name it. If you look up my rap name alias, it's Cory Crush. That's Cory and then Crush, Crush. You can find my whole catalog. I'm not saying I'm proud of all the music I put out. Some is a lot better than some of the other songs I've done, but very proud to say that I, like you are doing right now, I dedicated myself to making music for many, many years. And I don't regret it for 1 minute. Didn't make a lot of money doing it, but I can tell you this much. I learned a lot about booking my own shows, working with other people, and really just giving people what they want, which is really happiness at the end of the day.
Are you still doing that?
I'm not actively making music, but I've been toying around with the idea of actually, believe it or not, putting out a kind of a personal growth and development themed album. I just don't know how well it would do. And right now I'm very busy writing a couple personal growth and development books for adults, so I don't really have the time to do music. But I'm still in love with music. I always will be, whether or not I'm actually making it myself.
Let's see. We've got consumer rights advocate, metaphysician, and founder, CEO of Manifestation Machine. Let's see if we can do all three of those in about 5 minutes.
Sure. Well, to sum it up, I guess I should go back to where I was February of 2014. I was actually 30, going on 31 years old. Life basically wasn't what I'd hoped it would be. I was single, divorced actually. I was living paycheck to paycheck, stuck in a dead-end customer service call center job, sleeping on my retired father's couch and in over $10,000 of debt, most of which came from credit cards. I didn't really see a light at the end of the tunnel back then. And then something really miraculous happened. I stumbled across a YouTube video, which was called something like The Metaphysical Secret to Success. And little did I know at the time that when I started watching this video, I was actually watching a docufilm called The Secret. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
The Secret, basically, if I had to sum it up, it's about a universal law. A lot of people call it the law of attraction, which basically says that we attract to ourselves that which we are in terms of the energy we give off. In other words, your life is a mirror, and the people, places, things, and circumstances that surround you are a reflection of who you really are as a person, or really how you feel about life in general. So if you're surrounded by a bunch of negative people, it probably means you're a negative person. On the flip side, if you're surrounded by positive people, like most successful people are, you're probably a positive person, and that's the vibe that you give off to people. Specifically, one thing in this film hit me really hard, which was when a gentleman named Mike Dooley said, "Thoughts become things." What he meant by that is the thoughts you think actually condense over time into physical, as in cold, hard physical reality, the things you actually see around you. So that was a big thing for me, because up to that point, I was kind of thinking I was more like a lifeless log, just being dragged along the river of life, just being bandied about all over the place, completely at the mercy of things I couldn't control. But what Mike Dooley said to me when he said thoughts become things is that I wasn't the victim of circumstances I thought I was. I was actually the master of my own destiny, and that if I could change my thoughts, I could actually craft the life that I really, truly loved. Since I heard that, I actually started creating my own process, which I call the 4 C's of success, which, by the way, I just added a new post up at my blog, manifestationmachine.com, stating that I'm now offering to teach other people this process because I want other people to experience the freedom, the abundance, the prosperity that I've been experiencing ever since I started putting what I learned from Mike Dooley and through my own 4 C's of success process into work for myself.
Okay, tell us what the 4 C's are real quick.
Well, without getting into too much detail, the first one is clarity. The second is conviction. The third is compulsion. And the fourth is completion. To sum it up in a nutshell, basically you need to decide what you want, why you want it, wait for a compulsion to hit you with regards to what you should do. In other words, for the how to come to you with regards to what you need to do to get what you want, and then do that thing. Whatever that how is, just do it. Even if you don't necessarily know why you're supposed to be doing it, or if it doesn't seem related to what it is you're trying to accomplish or won't get you there, you should do it anyway. And that's really what my process is all about. It's about trust, taking action, and being crystal clear on what you want and why you want it.
Okay, fast forward to today. You said you were single. Are you remarried now?
I am happily married. In addition, I will tell you this. I'm actually in the best place in my life I've ever been. And a couple of years ago, if you would have asked me if I'd ever get to the point where I'm talking to you, Douglas, I would have said you're crazy. Because now, after going through all that stuff I went through in the past, sleeping on my dad's couch, being in debt up to my eyeballs and whatnot, I'm actually completely financially independent right now, working from home. Like we talked about, I'm a published author. I run this personal growth and development brand manifestation machine. I've actually got a paid off house, 2 paid off cars, and I've got a personal net worth quite contrary to where I used to have all that debt. I have a personal net worth of probably north of $250,000 right now.
Good.
So I'm doing pretty well, and I'd like to help other people do the same thing, which is why I'm here talking to you about the 4 C's of success.
Okay. Well, if you want to find out more, where is the best place people can go to check you out? It's
manifestationmachine.com. Otherwise, if somebody just Google searches me, Cory Groshek, Groshek, they'll have no problem finding me.
Okay, super. Cory, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it. It was very interesting. Best of luck to you.
No, appreciate your time, Douglas. If you ever want me to come back on and talk more about this, just let me know. It's been a pleasure.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Well, that's about all the time we've got for the show today. I want to thank my special guests, Cory Groshek and Tracy Birdsall. This is Douglas Coleman saying goodbye.